What's going on, everybody? It's your host of Sports Moose here with the Thunderdome Puckcast. We are back. It's been a great off season. You know, it was one of those off seasons, and I know a lot of our listeners and fans of the show were just there living through winning the Stanley Cup in a crazy setting for COVID. I mean, I feel like it took all my energy that I haven't even wanted to think about hockey over the past couple months, but that itch has been there. So excited. Lots to talk about today, of course. Here, episode 26 of the podcast. We're back. Plenty to talk about. Let's do it after the intro. Hope you're having a great, whatever time you're viewing this. It's your host of Sports Moose. I guess that's the beauty of pre-recorded videos, right? You can watch it at your leisure. This, of course, will be available on our favorite platform on YouTube, of course. Not so much live. We'll sprinkle in some live episodes during the season, but also on YouTube as well. We'll want to make sure we're getting both our Facebook page and our YouTube channel going once again with weekly downloads. So you can expect a larger length Thunderdome Puckcast episode. We'll talk Lightning, we'll talk NHL, we'll talk hockey news. We're going to be dropping those every Monday now, moving forward. So that's going to be available on video as well as your favorite podcasting platforms. We'll actually upload audio here on your favorite Spotify, iHeartRadio now, I guess, is number one for podcasts per what they say, and Google and Apple Podcasts. All out there. Trying to get on Amazon because I think Amazon's trying to make a big push in the podcasting game. We'll be on there sooner rather than later. But damn, it feels good to put on this Lightning jersey. You know, not so much because it's chilly here. Really cold here out of Austin, Texas. Another 30-degree night. Actually had some snow over the weekend. An absolutely crazy weather weekend. Feels good to put the blue back on. But yeah, it's funny. As I was getting ready here, thinking about all the jerseys, all the different Lightning jerseys I have, I'm starting to think that I've got a Madden curse, like a jersey curse. And we'll talk about Kucherov later, of course, in this episode and what has happened all summer/fall. But I think I've got a jersey curse. My first blue Lightning jersey. I think the first jersey I ever had with a number on it, of course, Marty St. Louis. Got that as my season ticket member jersey when the transition over to Jeffrey Vinnick happened and I became a season ticket holder. Of course, just a few short years later, kind of the weird fallout, want to be traded to New York. Little public drama. I vowed to never wear the St. Louis jersey again. Mostly because it's a size extra large and a few sizes bigger than that. Back in my heyday, I vowed. It's like, oh, St. Louis broke my heart. All it's been forgiven, of course, since then. Then my second jersey, I bought this after I told myself as soon as Ben Bishop gets a shutout, I got to go buy his jersey. Got a shutout at a game I went to. Had to buy his jersey. And then a year or two later, of course, got to wear it over in Dallas. Both when he was a member of the Lightning and when he was a member of the Stars as well. Gets traded away, kind of injury prone. There goes my Ben Bishop jersey. And in fact, I was actually gifted a Ben Bishop jersey with like all the Lightning signatures, I think, of the 2018 season, maybe. Great gift. Got it hanging here on the wall. Now my Cooch jersey 86, and now he's injured for the year for 2021. Hopefully we'll see him in the playoffs. Of course, we'll talk about all that and more. If you're new to the show, of course, usually have the Lightning stats going on down below. Got some, can reminisce on the amazingness, the absolute domination that were the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. Some great numbers, statistics. I think 34 points for Kucherov overall in the playoffs. So again, one last time to revel it in before we get off tomorrow on the new campaign for 2021. You usually have the topics right here. If you're watching us on video right below me. Didn't get that today. No big deal. Today, talking about really quickly some of our offseason moves, how they were handled, what we can expect moving forward. Of course, lots of new rules. A lot of those having to do with ad revenue and revenue in general. Of course, big concern of the NHL potentially projecting billions in losses, billions with a B, which is really interesting for a business. Of course, we'll talk about the Central Division, the Lightning's new division of play for this season. I kind of like it. We'll talk about the special rules surrounding play, divisional play this year, and the playoffs and what comes with that as we get into May. And of course, it's kind of closing it down with the one last change. We'll kind of gloss over it as the play-by-play announcing transitions from Rick Peckham, 24 years of the Lightning, to our new play-by-play man, Dave Randorf. Dave Randorf of CBC, Hockey Night in America fame. We'll talk about that just for a little bit. Probably cover that a little bit more later in the season. All right, let's hop over to Topic Cam. Let's get going, of course. Got great topics to talk about. Really, the big one today, just wanted to go over some of the transactions that happened over the summer. Really nothing to talk about. It's kind of funny. I have this whole big block, if you're watching on video, all our transactions. Actually may not be able to see it so well. We might have to zoom into full screen, but really not much to write about for the Lightning. A couple depth moves. I think the big news, of course, the signing of Anthony Cirelli. There's a big question mark if that was going to get accomplished. Signing Chernak and Ruda was great moves. We re-signed Luke Shen, who's right now going to be on Taxi Squad, one of the specialty squads for this weird COVID season. Signing Volkov, a couple entry-level contracts. And really the big move didn't happen. We're forced to make it kind of around Christmas time. The loss of not only Braden Coburn, who I think underground favorite, kind of a fan favorite. No one was clamoring for Coburn to get that cup more than I was. When he came on board a couple years ago, really built the foundation of an area where I think Yzerman struggled early on. We all remember the Eric Brewer experience and how we really struggled. Marc-Andre Bergeron, how we really struggled to build a defensive identity with basically having to wait for Victor Hedman to grow into his role, and others as well. I think we got a pretty great trade with Jonathan Drouin and the return of Mikhail Sergachev and other savvy moves. Rick McDonough. I mean, that's a game changer move right there, right? But really, I think Yzerman's early misses were on defense, and kind of Coburn coming in. I don't remember if that was tail end of Yzerman or the beginning of JBB, Julien Brisebois. But that right there kind of set the tone of where we need a solid 4, solid 6, top 6 defensemen to get it done. So moving on with another fan favorite, Seti Paquette, moving over to Ottawa. Bolt's doing some favors for the Senators. Couple players on long-term IR. So again, trying our best to help with salary dumps all around the league. A little bit of cap circumvention. Of course, really the main story surrounding the Lightning overall summer, other than celebrating the Stanley Cup, hopefully no Stanley Cup hangover, really was what we're going to do with the cap, needing to sign Sergachev, Matthew Joseph getting a contract. I don't know if you want to consider him an upgrade or a downgrade. We're spending most of his time in the minors last year. And also the bridge contract. How could I forget? Bridge contract for Sergei. Huge. I mean, absolutely huge to get all this done under the cap. And dare we say, somewhat lucky to get it all under the cap. Of course, big news is Cirelli Geddon absolutely avoided. This was a big question. It's like, how is Tampa going to be able to afford all this? We just won the cup. We got to pay some of the boys. What were these numbers going to look like? Because I think the concern is, how do we not turn into Chicago in 5 to 7 years? And we're really seeing now Chicago's windows kind of closing. They have huge contracts for aging stars. How do we find that fine balance of, yes, we want to respect our players that got us here and pay them appropriately, but how do we not saddle ourselves to anchors of contracts moving forward? And it takes a team effort, and I think Cirelli, was it a 3-year $14 million, so just under $5 million a year in average cap hit. That's a good bridge contract. I mean, it's obviously not as high as Stamkos and Hedman and others when they had their bridge deals. Not even Braden Point, but Cirelli's a solid second to third liner. Really kind of like him on the second line, and we'll talk about that tomorrow a little bit more as we'll do quick. By the way, kind of a switch in format. Exclusive for our video subscribers only on Facebook and YouTube. We'll be doing some quick game previews, and this year it'll be series previews because they're going to be going back to back against most teams. So kind of a quick 5 to 10 minute video before every game or every series now, since COVID's minimizing travel. Just previewing the series, key players, predictions, and all that fun stuff. But we'll talk about that tomorrow as we'll release a different video for that. Anyway, Cirelli, I think, contract in line. JBB's done a great job at team buy-in. Sergachev, I think, taking a pretty friendly deal as well. Kind of I'm looking up his numbers now. Sergachev contract also, it looks like a 4.8 million average AAV. Can't beat that. You can't beat guys that are taking somewhat team-friendly deals, wanting to stay with a strong core, and honestly have a legitimate shot at winning a second Stanley Cup in a row. First team to do it since the Penguins back in the late 2000s to do that. Of course, we already talked about our rest in peace for not only Braden Coburn, but one of my favorites, your favorite past, Cedric Paquette. I think an unheralded hero of the Stanley Cup run this year. Him and Big Rig really just bringing some grit to the team. So I'm hoping we're able to replace that in some way. We don't want to get less gritty, especially this is going to be such a sprint to the finish. And who knows what the playoffs are going to hold again. If the situation stays the same, and what's going to happen in Canada? Canada still has some tough entry and travel restrictions. Is it going to be another playoff bubble? That would be really tough to ask of anyone to do that again. Of course, the big news, Stamkos reporting he's fully healthy. So please don't break anything this year. Please don't. Got to keep him in saran wrap or bubble wrap, because he is going to be absolutely instrumental in us having a chance. And I don't want to be dramatic, but having a chance to win the division without much of a struggle. And again, we'll talk about the new Central Division in a moment. But with the loss, and you see right over there, you see Nikita Kucherov hurt. had surgery over the offseason. I think it was on the old hip. Definitely an injury that was hurting him, even though you couldn't tell, during the playoff run, Stanley Cup run, and finally getting taken care of over the offseason. You see him there in gray along with Paquette. Rest in peace for this season. Eligible to come back for the playoffs. And again, this is really kind of, is Julian Breezewell more Jedi than Yzerman? Because, he had a tough situation. And you see there, if you're watching on video, of course, one of the big, not so much a head scratcher, but something that really caught my attention as a fan and Lightning Twitter out there as well was Tyler Johnson going down on waivers, trying his absolute best to make a deal. Just no takers. I mean, and unfortunately, it was just a little too late to sell on Johnson. His value just tanked, and I think he will always be a fan favorite as well. One of my favorite players, especially when he was effective. It's really kind of sucked to see his just play dry up. Really unexpected. I mean, he was always one of those solid, dependable guys, and I don't know. It's almost like a little bit of a decline. It's maybe the 2018 playoffs. He was playing injured during the Stanley Cup against the Blackhawks. I mean, absolutely gritty player. Mad respect. Doesn't deserve, again, JBB trying his best to respect, line up a trade. Had to put him on waivers, and again, technically on waivers again as we get into the season. So he'll spend some time on the taxi squad, but he'll be playing some minutes with the Lightning. But don't be surprised if a move isn't made, at least into the offseason, surrounding Seattle, whether he's going to be exposed to Seattle during the expansion draft in the upcoming offseason, or maybe a trade gets made somewhere with Vegas, where trades were made heading into the draft in exchange for please don't take our exposed players, stuff like that. So we'll have to see that. So really, again, just absolutely amazing the way I think JBB handled a lot of this offseason, working with his players to get them to deals that they were comfortable with, really selling the culture here, which is really important. I mean, everyone wants to come to Tampa. I mean, it's a great place to play. I wouldn't mind playing in Tampa. Have kind of our diehard fans who would recognize our players out in the public, but for the most part, the media is pretty decent here. Not every move you make is going to be criticized. No state tax. Pretty great head coach. Pretty great GM. Facilities are good. Good owner. I mean, just what more can you ask for? Take a little bit less money. Get a chance to go for the cup again. Reloading here. Windows wide open for the Bolts. I mean, I haven't looked at the cap for next year and what the situations and the re-signings look like, but windows absolutely wide open once again here in the 2021 season. So that brings us over to talk about the divisions. You heard me allude to it a little bit, that things are going to look a little bit different, and I actually really love the plan that the NHL has come up with here. Really, really like it, actually. I was beside myself. In the summer, with the very little thinking of hockey I did, kind of re-geared into college football, and the NFL pulling off a regular season with minimal disruption. Unbelievable. Getting behind Tom Brady and the Bucks, getting ready to shift gears here for the Lightning. Really like what they did here, regionalizing a lot of the play, keeping in mind Canada's difficulty to cross the border and having a quarantine plan and whatnot. So lo and behold, you have the North, the all-Canadian division. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You're going to see Calgary play Edmonton like 9 times, 10 times potentially. I think they play each other 10 times. The season is 56 games. So all the other divisions, West, Central, and East, of course, with 8 teams, everyone playing each other 8 times to get you to your 56. The North is really where it gets like 9 or 10 times, depending on what team it is. But I like the East Division is just going to be an absolute like slobber knocker, just a fight to the death. Is this going to be the year the Penguins don't make the playoffs? I mean, top 4 without question, no wild cards. Top 4 in finishing in points make the playoffs. So, don't have to worry about wild card this or 5 teams making it from one division and 3 from the other. None of that. No conferences this year. It's going to be amazing. There's a possibility that you get like a Boston Tampa Bay final, or a final that you may not normally have. So again, really unique season here in 2021. And your usual suspects here are going to have a good time. I mean, the East is going to be really interesting. One of the big news stories of the last week or two is Zdeno Chara moving on to the Washington Capitals, big rivals of the Boston Bruins, at least in the past. New Jersey's an up-and-coming team. I think Taylor Hall ended up in Buffalo. I think Philly's ready to take that next step with Carter Hart even getting better. A couple key moves for them in the offseason. Islanders were solid. I mean, if they can get some scoring and not have to rely on we're going to collapse and trap and play 5 back in the conference finals like they did, they could make some noise. Rangers, a little bit of a rebuild project, first year without Henrik Lundqvist. So they have some great young goaltending. So I'm curious about the East. That might be a division where everyone ends up beating each other up. West is, I think, probably going to be Colorado's to take, maybe Vegas as well. St. Louis with a couple minor improvements. Not sure if San Jose makes the playoffs here, though. Good opportunity, though. Assuming it's Vegas, Colorado, and St. Louis who's going to take that 4th spot. Minnesota with some improvements. Probably not Anaheim. I would love to see the Yotes in there, but we will wait and see. And then, of course, the Canadian North. That's going to be absolute mad dash to the finish. 4 out of the 7 teams making it there. It's pretty good odds to make the playoffs no matter what. Some people are saying it's Toronto's division to lose. Edmonton, of course, making strong pushes. Improvements for Calgary. Ottawa, I don't know if it's ready to make that next step, but a couple key improvements there. Ottawa could be making some noise in the next few years. Just don't know if they're there yet. And of course, Vancouver with a little bit of a overperformance in the 2020 playoffs. Are they ready to rock and roll and reload? You'll have to wait and see with some key acquisitions over the summer. One of them being Braden Holtby to share the net with Jonas Markstrom. Let's overview of your divisions. Love the plan. 56-game season. Everyone plays each other 8 times. 4, if you're in an 8-team division, it's 4 home, 4 and away. And what I really like what they're doing is they're doing games back to back. So if you're traveling somewhere, you're playing a team twice instead of just 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 flying everywhere. And then they're encouraging longer homestands. For instance, the Bolts starting off tomorrow against Chicago. We'll preview that game in our preview episode. So Chicago coming in for 2. Dallas was supposed to come in for 2. Right now they're in quarantine. So game 3 of the season right now is TBD. Game 4 is still on for Tuesday, I believe, in Tampa against the Stars. So a couple question marks coming up already with COVID and the Lightning already involved. A few key players on Dallas unidentified have tested positive for COVID-19. So, a couple other rule changes, and a lot of those rule changes have to do with ads. Ads are now a thing. Everything is for sale. This is the first time that the actual divisions were auctioned off to the highest bidder. You see the Discover Central Division. Discover Central Division. Of course, the Canadian division, the North Division, had to have Scotiabank. So Scotia North Division, Honda out in the West, the Honda West Division, and Mass Mutual taking on the East Division. So some regional, I guess, sponsors there on the divisions. I wonder if this is gonna change stuff. I mean, obviously it's no surprise that most professional sports league with little to no gate are hurting for revenue dollars and kind of an opportunity to make a quick buck. Get literally everything for sale. NHL has approved, I don't know if it's temporary or forever, exclusive helmet sponsorship. So for instance, we have the Lightning up here, Dex Imaging, who had sponsored the practice jerseys before, and of course Tampa General Hospital, I guess, taking it. I wonder if it's going to be one on each side and one on the other side, or if it's going to be white helmets as TGH and blue helmets as Dex. More to come on that. Again, we've been forewarned that NHL is going to get crazy and creative, I guess is the word to say, with how they focus revenue dollars or get revenue dollars. So I would expect a situation like Ricky Bobby here. Everything's for sale. Got a window sponsor. Are they going to be putting sponsors on the glass? I hope not. Though I guess it wouldn't matter since there aren't fans. I think fans are only approved for 4 to 5 of the 31 NHL teams right now. So hopefully as the situation improves, in theory, as more and more get the vaccine in the spring, be some more fans out in the hockey community. Dallas, of course, being one of those arenas allowing fans. So Lightning in town in February. Might have to see if I make it out there to see the boys in blue. So ads everywhere. Probably a few more ad spaces on the ice. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we think NBC Sports, of course, Lightning kicking off the NHL season with raising up the banner against the Blackhawks. Again, we'll preview that tomorrow night. Look for our preview episode on Facebook and YouTube. Now, really the only immediate rule, like true rule, I know we were kind of joking around with ad revenue and everything's being for sale, Pfizer's being for sale. Finally, common sense rule change here with the offsides. I mean, this has been an area of controversy for years. It has impacted play. It has impacted offense. And it's impacted pretty amazing goals because, you have that challenge in your hand as a coaching staff. And, even if the referee or the linesman doesn't call offsides, got that in your back pocket, that if the ice or if your skate wasn't contacting the blue line, hey, you're offsides, even though you're hovering over the blue line. In some cases, like on the opposite side of the blue line, not even in an offside position, but your skate's in the air, you're offsides, plays over, or goal doesn't count. Finally, kind of a common sense change here, where instead of you straddling and having to touch the ice, now it's just the plane. Just got to break the plane of your foot. As long as your foot is in the plane of the blue line, you're onside now. So, kind of a rest in peace to our heroic onside splits. Of course, you're watching on video here. We have a great clip of, looks like Toronto, 3 guys doing onside splits here to stay on the side. Basically back to back to back, just straddling the blue line, trying to stay on side. We're going to miss those. Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, please don't tear something. I'm glad athletes are much more stretchable than I am currently, at least. But don't have to stretch on the blue line anymore. Straight up, just breaking the plane. Finally, common sense rule change here for the NHL. Good on them. Hopefully this opens up offense as well. I think that's the intention. Is you've had some great play get disrupted with this offsides penalty or offsides whistle to slow down play. So really looking at the Central Division, I mean, kind of like I've been saying when this happened, I've been, have a couple Blackhawks fans in my family and talking with a few other of my Lightning buddies. It's just like looking at this, it's kind of like wake us up when May gets here. May, of course, when the playoffs are going to get going this year. And I just feel like it's going to be kind of a tough go here because it's almost inevitable, provided we have good injury luck and get our usual play that we're expecting from Vasilevsky doesn't get injured or regresses this year. So this is the Lightning's division to lose. And when you're looking at a lot of the expert picks, Lightning are first in many, if not all, NHL expert picks with some variability of who's going to make the playoffs. I mean, I think it's assumed that Chicago and Detroit end up at the bottom of the division. It's going to be tough. I mean, I'm excited for hockey. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see, but are we going to just get tired of playing the Dallas Stars and Nashville Predators by March or April? Especially, there is at least one NHL game moving forward every day through the playoffs starting tomorrow, which Hockey Geek and me loves that. But at the end of the day, again, it's kind of like old school MLB, right? So you just played the same team over and over and over. And this is before interleague play. So, I mean, you were playing National League even more than you do now. And the NHL kind of tried this. So you remember when they were doing the kind of rotating the West schedules, where it was really heavily focused for a 3-year period on not only conference but divisional play. Is this going to get old? Maybe it's a good thing it's a 1 year and done and we're back for our usual conference next year, hopefully. Hopefully with the pandemic de-escalating or subsiding. What do you guys think? I mean, if you're here, throw a comment down in the section. Where do you think these teams finish? I think Carolina's a really interesting addition to this, mostly because they've been punished and I guess baptism by fire in a tough metropolitan division where they've really come to hold their own. Of course, making the playoffs last year, I believe, or at least getting to the play-in rounds. I don't even remember 2020 so far ago, even though it's only been 3 months. But I think Carolina can make some noise. I have them second. Second. Storm surging into the playoffs. A bunch of jerks. I think have it to compete in this division, especially with a couple down teams. Few experts have Dallas second, and again, that's fair. Nothing's really changed on their team. No big acquisitions. Really, the only loss they had was Corey Perry. I think he ended up either on waivers or is still a free agent. I forget. I don't even know if he's on a team right now. But a year of age. The Ben Bishop question bounces back into play. Can Ben Bishop play more than 50% of his season? We're lucky to get a couple good years of him here in Tampa, but man, the guy's just always hurt. It's been his story. Just always finds a way to lose a couple games to injury, and he's so great. I love Ben. Ben was one of my favorite players when he was here in Tampa. Loved his story of coming up and making it through the playoffs. You just gotta love Big Ben. I think he's great for the game and a great story on how he made it. Just always finds a way to just get the injury bug. It's unbelievable. So I think a lot of their success hinges upon that. Again, no disrespect to Anton Khudobin, who we saw absolutely boss moded it during the playoffs. I just don't know if he has that in him again. Again, Dallas defense pretty decent. And if they really snap it together for 56 games, obviously it's clear that at a talent level in Dallas, is enough for them to carry even a mediocre season from Khudobin into the playoffs. I think it's going to hinge upon, can Ben Bishop not break for once? And then the 4 is really where I'm torn. I'm going to put Columbus here. I liked what I saw during the playoffs. Again, not too many key losses for them. I'm trying to see who they ended up. They actually acquired back Domi, so a little bit of grit there. Miku Koivu, so a little bit of veteran presence, spending most of his career in Minnesota. The loss of Josh Anderson, I think, is gonna be okay. I think Josh Anderson ended up on Montreal, who severely, in my opinion, overpaid. So I think Max Domi's a pretty good switch there. I think goaltending, they've got it figured out, but it's gonna be Merzlikins, Korpisalo. Someone's got their back in goal. So I like Columbus here in the 4 slot. Wouldn't be surprised if Dallas has a mediocre season, tough goaltending, that they end up in the 3rd slot. Who I think can make some noise though is the Florida Panthers. And I know everyone's laughing at the contract and goal, and I think they lost Mike Hoffman, but got a little bit of grit. Anthony Duclair, get a Stanley Cup winner in Connor Verhaeghe, who the Bolts said just couldn't afford him. I mean, I think he's another growing talent. Does he go the way of Sean Bergenheim and others who have left the Lightning? The Lightning always seem to find a way to know when to let go of young prospects who kind of either plateau or their growth curve really decreases or slows down. I don't know if that's the case with Carter Verhaeghe. I was a big Verhaeghe fan. Great presence in the playoffs. I think Florida's got a gem there. But yeah, they lost. They did lose Mike Hoffman, Mike Matheson. But I think getting Patrick Hornquist is pretty good there. I think we got an extra 5th round pick. I know it's going to depend on if Bobrovsky has a bounce back year. Again, Panthers, before the pause at least, were dominating in offense. It's just that Bobrovsky was giving up like 3.5, 4 goals a game at one point. So again, can they shore up on defense? That's going to be the big question. But they could be a division surprise. They could sneak into those playoffs. Kind of going down to the 6th spot just because I just don't trust the work that they've done to get scoring. I mean, maybe Cousins and Eric Holla. I mean, not that. Look, I think Torres ended up. Where did he end up? Like in Edmonton. He was kind of trash when he was there in Nashville anyway. Never lived up to his expectations. But I don't know. I think they struggled scoring last year, and I don't know if they've done enough to improve that unless everyone kind of snaps out of their fluky, just not playing well. I just don't know. I mean, obviously it's Juicy Soros time there with backup Picarine now fully handing over the reins of the goal. It's going to be, can anyone score for Nashville? Now we'll look at them more closely as the Lightning meet the Predators later on in the season. And of course, we talked about the bottom 2. Chicago, are they rebuilding? Are they a dumpster fire? Are they both? I think some of the big news early on in the offseason was a letter sent out by their administration, their leadership, season ticket holders, talking about a rebuild. This, of course, was news to Captain Patrick Sharp. Not Patrick Sharp. Jonathan Toews. I don't know why I was thinking about Sharpie there. Jonathan Toews, big surprise. So much of a surprise that I guess he has some sort of illness and he's not going to be playing this year, if at all. Kind of sitting out, opting out on the rebuild in Chicago. It's still got Patrick Kane, but again, big question mark at goal. I think it's going to be Malcolm Subban, I think, starting. Corey Crawford eventually retiring, even though he signed on with New Jersey, but just didn't have it in him. retired earlier this week. So that big question mark in goal for Chicago. And then, of course, baby steps maybe for Detroit. Are they going to be a little bit better than last year? I think so. I think Stevie Y still has a long way to go with this team. I think just, again, depending on defense, doesn't matter who you have in goal. If your defense doesn't play better, it's going to be a bad time. I think teams should play a little bit more confidently in front of Thomas Greiss. Unfortunately, Jimmy Howard, American hero, American Olympic hero, just has been on the decline. And it's been really tough to see him, man. See him go out this way, loyal to Detroit to the end. Just as a Detroit guy, love playing there. It's just always tough when your stars, your guys that you just love growing up, start getting old, and you see them decompensate in your eyes, and it's like, oh, why does it have to end this way? It was just bad timing too. I mean, you just knew that Detroit had a little bit of a long-term project, and now's the time to get the young guns in there, or at least someone a little bit younger and a little bit more reliable, like Thomas Greiss, who just wants a chance. I mean, he's always been in a situation where, whether it was San Jose, whether it was in New York, where kind of a 1A, 1B situation, kind of a second fiddle situation to someone. So yeah, that's kind of our official Thunderdome Puckcast prediction for the division. Lightning, of course, finishing first, winning the Central Division this year. Hurricanes, Stars, I think we'll go with the Blue Jackets, Panthers, Predators, Blackhawks, and closing out with those Detroit Red Wings. Maybe we'll make some noise. I think they can make some noise this year. So it's just to close it out, episode 26. Unbelievable. We made it through 26 episodes. The first episode since the Stanley Cup win. And kind of a little bit of a transition here. As we all knew Rick Peckham was moving away, a lot of question marks of who the guy was going to be. It's just going to be so weird. It'd be so weird listening to Lightning broadcasts and just the comfortable yet enthusiastic voice of Rick Peckham. Just gonna miss that. I'm gonna absolutely miss that. Coming up through the Whaler system and taking over the Lightning 24 years ago. Got to be along for the ride for 2 Stanley Cups, lots of playoff wins, lots of interesting ownerships. The Lightning were owned by the Yakuza. Such a great career here in Tampa, alongside Chief, who I think is going to still do a little bit of work pregame and postgame. The original duo, Chief Bobby Taylor and Rick Peckham. Always have my childhood memories of watching hockey that way. Of course, bringing in Dave Randorf. Aside from the Lightning community has been sharing Dave Randorf's best calls. Of course, very passionate, very emotional. Does some great work in Hockey Night in Canada. So excited to see how that transitions over to, from being neutral to kind of trying to give us a homer slant, right? I think he always appreciated that about Rick Peckham. He was so professional. He always knew, at least on Sun Sports broadcast, right? When he was working NBC Sports, usually was pretty good at being impartial, showing excitement from both sides of the puck. But you gotta have a little bit of passion for the home team or your employer, right? And I think Rick Peckham had a good balance of that. So this will be really interesting to see how Dave Randorf moves into that role of having to be a little bit of a homer, right? You don't want some of those other broadcast teams like Boston looking at you, where it's just obviously just a homer broadcast. Bruins can do nothing wrong. I don't want that. I just want someone who's excited for the Lightning, stands up to the refs, stands up to the bad calls, but also objective. I want someone objective, but isn't going to take crap from bad officiating and whatnot. So welcome to Dave Randorf. He looks happy. Looks like a happy guy. Looks like a very Canadian guy. So hopefully a good fit here for the Lightning. All right, everybody. Been great to be back. Episode 26 of the Thunderdome Puckcast coming to a close. Probably should have a few changes coming up, not only for the channel, but also for the setting. It's the setup. I know I've gotten the feedback of kind of a weird setting here. Got a dartboard, got the Brady count. Gonna be reorienting the room to make it actually look more of a stage or a setting for sports talk, I guess. The better background, put some of our Lightning stuff behind us, and the Buccaneer stuff as well, since we'll still be doing some Bucks work. But yeah, so really excited for the future of the podcast. Hope you are here along for the ride. Again, more videos coming out. Going to be dropping our big episodes on Mondays moving forward. But don't forget, we'll have some game previews or series preview videos as we go along in the season. Some quick news updates as well. If something happens, injury, coaching drama, whatnot, we'll have a quick 5 or 10 minute video giving our thoughts on that. So make sure you subscribe for all your Lightning quick news bites here. Can't promise you I'm going to have the same information as Bolts prospects, or who focus on the pipeline and our minor league play. One of my other favorite Twitter, Lightning Twitter, Bolts Jolts, is great. Make sure you follow him and others in the community. Trying to make my little updates for you guys, more videos released on Facebook and YouTube, and of course audio of our weekly podcast should be dropped by Monday night on your favorite podcasting platform: Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon. That has been it for your host, Sports News. Kind of a monster episode here. Try to make them shorter as we go along this season. Hockey's back. Bolts are back. See you tomorrow. Lightning versus Chicago. Take care.